Leafs Nation. All right, this just got real. Victor here. Within minutes of each other, the Maple Leafs just moved 2 forwards at the trade deadline. Bobby McMahon is heading to the Seattle Kraken, and Scott Lton is going to the Los Angeles Kings. That's not a rumor anymore. That's action. McMahon goes out for draft picks after putting up 19 goals this season, and Lton, another pending free agent, is shipped to LA for a conditional pick. 2 trades, same afternoon, same message. The Leafs are clearly McMahon selling pieces after a disappointing season. And the big question now is, are they done? Because if these are just the first dominoes, this deadline could get even crazier. Before we break down both deals and what they mean for the future of this team, do me a quick favor. Hit like and subscribe. We're pushing toward Nhl 1,000 subscribers. And if you're riding through this wild deadline with Leafs Nation Report, help us get there. All right, let's talk about what just happened. Bobby McMahon is officially no longer a Toronto Maple Leaf. The team traded McMahon to the Seattle Kraken, and in return, the Leafs receive a 2027 second-round pick and a 2026 fourth-round pick. The news was first reported by Elliotte Friedman and confirmed with the details by Nick Kypreos. And honestly, this one hits a little differently than some typical deadline deals, because McMahon wasn't just another depth player. This was a guy who earned everything he got in this league. He wasn't drafted. He didn't come in with hype. He signed with Toronto as a free agent in April of 2022 and slowly worked his way through the system. Over time, he forced his way onto the roster and eventually carved out a real role with the big club. That kind of story resonates with fans. And this season especially, McMahon showed real growth. He put up 19 goals and 13 assists for 32 points in 60 games, which is easily the best production of his NHL career. But the numbers only tell part of the story. What McMahon brought was energy. He skated hard every shift. He wasn't afraid of contact. He could move up and down the lineup. And when injuries hit or the team needed a spark, he was often one of those guys who just went to work without complaining. And that's why this move feels like a clear message from management. This isn't just about moving a player. This is about selling assets in a disappointing season. The Leafs are currently outside the playoff picture, and instead of pretending everything is fine, the front office is doing what struggling teams often have to do at the trade deadline: move pending unrestricted free agents before they walk for nothing. Because that's the key detail here. McMahon was set to become a UFA this summer. If Toronto didn't move him now, they ran the risk of losing him in free agency without getting anything back. So, from a management perspective, getting a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick is solid value, especially for a player who originally came into the organization undrafted. But from a fan perspective, it's still a tough goodbye. McMahon played 200 NHL games with Toronto, putting up 91 career points along the way. Not superstar numbers, but respectable production for a player who fought his way into the league. And now he heads to Seattle, a team looking to boost their forward group for the playoff push. And honestly, I think he fits there. The Kraken needed more depth scoring and physical presence on the wing, and McMahon provides exactly that. He's the type of player coaches trust because he can play responsibly and still chip in offensively. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if he becomes a useful piece for them down the stretch. For the Leafs, though, this move is about something bigger. It's about resetting parts of the roster. Earlier this week, we already saw Nicholas Roy move to Colorado, and now McMahon is gone too. That's 2 players out the door as Toronto starts repositioning for the future. And that tells us something very important. The front office isn't pretending this season went the way they hoped. They're adjusting. Now the big question becomes, are they done? Because the trade deadline has already delivered one significant move today. But if you thought Bobby McMahon being traded was the only headline coming out of Toronto this afternoon, well, not long after that deal went through, another Maple Leafs forward found himself packing his bags. All right, Leafs Nation. So let's talk about the second move that dropped right after the McMahon trade, because the front office clearly wasn't done. Not long after Bobby McMahon was sent to Seattle, the Leafs made another trade. And this one involved veteran forward in Scott Lton, who has now been dealt to the Los Angeles Kings. According to reports from Elliotte Friedman, Toronto sent Lton to LA in exchange for a conditional third-round pick. And there's an interesting twist to that condition. The pick becomes a second-round pick if the Kings make the playoffs. So right away, you can see the logic here from Toronto's side. The Leafs are essentially betting on the Kings being competitive. If Los Angeles reaches the postseason, Toronto upgrades the return from a third to a second-round pick, which would make this trade a much stronger asset move. Now, let's talk about Lton for a second. Because unlike McMahon, who grew through the Leafs system, Lton was a recent addition to this team. Toronto acquired him, Barish, last season from the Philadelphia Flyers, hoping he would add experience, depth, and a bit of versatility down the middle and on the wing. And to be fair, Lton has always been known around the league as a reliable two-way forward, the kind of guy who can kill penalties, play responsible minutes, and chip in offensively when needed. But this season, things never really took off the way the team hoped. In 43 games with Toronto, Lton recorded 8 goals and 4 assists, in giving him 12 points on the season. Not terrible production for a depth forward, but probably not the impact the Leafs envisioned when they brought him in. And when you look at the bigger picture, the timing of this trade makes a lot of sense. Lton is 31 years old. And like McMahon, he's also heading toward unrestricted free agency this summer. That means if Toronto kept him through the end of the season, there was a real chance he could walk away in July without the Leafs getting anything back. So from a front office perspective, this move is pretty straightforward. You take a veteran player on an expiring deal, you move him at the deadline to a team that believes he can help in a playoff push, and you collect draft capital in return. And that's exactly what the Kings are doing here. Los Angeles is clearly looking to strengthen its depth heading into the postseason, and Lton is the kind of player coaches love during playoff hockey. He plays hard, he understands defensive responsibilities, and he has plenty of NHL experience. Over his career, he's put up 281 points, 116 goals, and 165 assists, and even added 12 points in the playoffs. So the Kings are getting a battle-tested forward who can slide into different roles when games start getting tighter in April and May. But again, from a Leafs fan perspective, the bigger story isn't just the individual trade, it's the pattern. Because now, when you step back and look at everything that has happened in just a short window, the picture becomes a lot clearer. First, Nicholas Roy was moved earlier in the week. Then, Bobby McMahon was traded to Seattle for draft picks. And now, Scott Lton is heading to Los Angeles. That's 3 players gone in a very short span of time. And when teams start making moves like this at the trade deadline, it tells you something important about where the organization believes it is. The Leafs aren't acting like a team that expects to make a serious playoff run this year. They're acting like a team that is mere evaluating the roster and collecting assets for the future. And honestly, as a fan, that's a tough thing to accept in the moment. Because every season you start with hope. You believe this could be the year the team finally figures it out. But when the results don't come, sometimes the smartest move is stepping back and resetting certain pieces. That seems to be exactly what Toronto is doing right now. Moving expiring contracts, accumulating draft picks, creating flexibility for what comes next. And when you connect both of today's trades together, McMahon to Seattle and Lton to Los Angeles, it becomes clear that this isn't just random deadline activity. This is a direction. The Leafs are reshaping parts of this roster. Now the real question becomes, what comes next? Because the trade deadline isn't over yet. And if today has shown us anything, it's that Toronto might not be done making moves. So when you step back and look at everything that just happened today, Leafs Nation, it's pretty clear that this wasn't just a random trade deadline move. This was a statement. First, Bobby McMahon gets traded to the Seattle Kraken for a second-round pick in 2027 and a fourth-round pick in 2026. A player who worked his way up from being undrafted, gave this team real energy this season, and put up 19 goals and 13 assists in 60 games. Then, shortly after that, Scott Lton is sent to the Los Angeles Kings for a conditional third-round pick that could become a second if the Kings make the playoffs. 2 forwards, 2 players heading toward unrestricted free agency, 2 trades that clearly point in the same direction. The Leafs are collecting assets and adjusting the roster. And whether fans like it or not, it feels like the organization has accepted that this season didn't go the way anyone hoped. And honestly, as a fan, that's a tough pill to swallow. Because every year we believe this core can take the next step. But sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that set you up for the future. If these picks turn into real pieces down the line, if the front office uses this flexibility to build a deeper roster, then maybe these moves end up being part of something bigger. Right now, though, it just feels like we're watching a turning point. A moment where the Leafs are deciding what the next version of this team is going to look like. And like every fan out there, I just hope the next chapter finally takes this franchise where it's been trying to go for a very long time. But now, I want to hear from you, Leafs Nation. What do you think about these moves? Was trading McMahon and Lton the right call for the future? Or do you think the team is giving up too early on this season? Drop your thoughts down in the comments, because I read them all and I love hearing what you guys think. And if you enjoy talking Leafs hockey like this, real reactions, real conversations about what's happening with the team, make sure you hit like and subscribe. We're trying to reach 1,100 subscribers here on Leafs Nation Report, and every single one of you helps us get there. So if you want to keep up with the latest Leafs news, rumors, and reactions, stick around, because something tells me this trade deadline might not be finished yet.